With only a week to prepare after the initial announcement, we decided to do some reconnaissance, but more importantly to obtain information to be able to produce this. Now, after making some final adjustments with consideration from those who've already driven on the circuit, I then just added the final touches such as the barriers, which play a very pivotal role in this because it narrows down the circuit quite a bit and allows for less margin for error. Just getting a little bit carried away with a lot of the details and designs, trying to make it as faithful as possible, which I mean adds literally nothing to the driving experience, but it's still cool nonetheless, and I guess I geeked out a little bit. But yeah, this is essentially a method of training that we could use to familiarize ourselves with the circuit, accompanied by a very, very well-made mod. I'll put an image of the creator and the Patreon page on the screen. But yeah, couple that in with some in-person practice sessions, which not all of us were able to have. We were hopefully trying to make sure that we were well prepared as possible. But finally, after countless and countless revisions and versions, because things did not translate well on the export, we were finally able to produce this. Now, with less than a week away from race day, we began to finalize our strategy calls and forms of communication between the pit wall and the driver, just aiming to maximize our potential as a team.
You don't need to break up. Well, I don't.
I like how awkward you get as soon as the camera pans. So, quick update. It seems like it is pouring a lot. We don't really know if this cloud is going to pass over anytime soon. So we face risks of cancellation, delay, or changing venue completely. What are your thoughts?
They're trying to nerf the fat guys.
Real. So true. So true. So true.
No, but it's fair enough.
Yeah.
Kids here. To be serious.
Oh, is the kids racing?
Yeah, it's the main concern. It's the kids.
Okay, no, fair enough, yeah. So the biggest problem is going into that corner, that side.
Yeah, look at that puddle that's formed up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, Aiden went to go check and it just seems like a massive puddle that just kind of is, is forming there. So the problem is that's a heavy braking zone. And obviously karts like to kick from the rear, so we'll see how this goes. Yeah, it's drainage, yeah.
It's pushing down here. So if they can mop this up, we will be golden.
We say that while we hear thunder in the but yeah, it's not gonna last. The problem is it gonna last 30 minutes.
Yeah, there's real men driving there, eh?
Yeah, true. And then real men cause pile up in turn 3.
They don't want the Max Verstappen coming out.
True. Aiden's about to wreck the field, bro.
The Ayrton Senna.
Just goes for a gap.
Yeah, we might have been taking the piss out of the situation, but this was quite serious and kind of jarring and a little bit daunting because we had done so much preparation in the week and now there was a genuine risk of cancellation. Yes, the rain might have stopped, but now there was a timer. It went from 7 to 7:30 to check if the track was clear, which brought every competitor onto the track to dry it up as fast as we can so that we could get this race underway. Okay. not so fun news. So essentially, the rain had done way too much damage for us to actually have a suitable and safe race. Despite the great efforts of everyone on track trying to just clean up and actually, get the event moving forward, including from the GOAT, the absolute GOAT, Aiden, who was carrying the whole operations on his shoulders. Guess it wasn't enough. The rain had stopped around 6:30 or so, 6:45. And then from there it was just clean. But the problem is it was just so hard to clean everything up. So the good news was that there was a lot of drainage opportunities on the track with a bunch of grates that would drop down. But the problem is that when you feel like you've gotten the track to a dry enough state, more water would just flow in. Because now it's just all of it just leaking down. And it would just make its way onto the track, no matter how much would just kind of block it off or whatnot. And they try to get it up and running. We had cleaned for some time. I think they started to actually get the carts moving around just to see how it would be, like for the drivers at around 7:15 or so. So the original start time was supposed to be at 7:00, but that was definitely just pushed further. I think we were just very optimistic and hopeful because the rain had stopped and we were making a lot of progress to kind of clean it up. Problem is, it's concrete, not tarmac. Concrete does not grip well compared to tarmac. There's a lot of discussions to try and get the race underway, but the general consensus was there's just too many areas of water where the brakes specifically were just causing an issue, because slam on the brakes a little bit wrong where you catch a little bit of water and maybe water that's going onto the circuit and you just spin around. So they were just worried about big calamities in a short track and a tight width. And they were trying with different layouts as well. They're trying between the Joker layout and the normal layout, just to see how it would be affected, because there was one part, I think with the non-Joker layout, that's chicane that essentially starts the lap. The water was just kind of dripping through, and no matter how much you'd try and clean it or whatever, it would just keep coming back. The general consensus was that, and tried everything. I think it was officially deemed as cancelled 7:45 to 8:15, 8:20 was around when they just decided, they would just reschedule. So that just brings a lot of interesting things into question. Is when is the next time we'll race, which will be decided by the drivers on pole, and where we will race. So we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully that decision or that vote takes place soon. But yeah, right now kind of in the dark about this. It's down to the decision that's taken by the drivers. We'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, real bummer. Understandable decision. I want to put that out there. Very understandable decision. It just sucks because, obviously we all want to race and stuff. But we need to do it properly. I will catch you guys much closer to the time. But yeah.
No outlet.
Now, after quite an atrocious quali, we managed to secure 9th place, which was last on the grid. But in all honesty, to defend myself, 8/10 off of pole is not bad for someone who has not set foot on the track once. But because of how we set up the driver list and whatnot, and just availability on all of our teammates' side, I'm going to be doing the first stint. Then it will be followed by Aiden, then Isham, and then finally Muath. So let's just see how this goes.
We're gonna win. Sorry, I'm just gonna dive everyone out into lap 1. Go, Andre!
remember this puddle. It's important for when my stint is done. But just to sum up my stint, the start was very promising after that really dreaded start with going off the line. I was really on the back foot, but with a lot of the overtakes, I thought I was like getting a really good rhythm. I was really finding my feet. And after making 2 or 3 overtakes, with one of the overtakes being basically reversed due to a blue flag situation, our kart conked out. And unfortunately, that brought out the yellow flags and put us in a significantly worse kart with worse balance and, more importantly, worse engine power. If that wasn't enough, the braking was absolutely horrid. The brakes were way too strong and we just lost so much time. We were getting bumped around and I was just getting increasingly frustrated. And at that moment, I just kind of knew our race was done. And especially heading into the pits, where Aiden was going to take over. He is a very tall man. So the best way I can explain this is, if you are playing Mario Kart and you choose Waluigi and you put him in one of those normal carts and he can barely keep his legs inside the cart. That's basically what had happened there. And we were trying to plead with the officials to get us to change the cart or to just complain about the cart because this was not feasible. But Aiden had already gone out and they said that they could only get the card ready for the next stint. Aiden's stint went on and unfortunately, as expected, we are just losing so much time and we were just thrown straight to the back once again. And Aiden really couldn't do anything. He did the most that he could in that position, but he would come in and finally we would get the next card ready and it would be Sham's turn. But before that happened, I tried to essentially communicate with Aiden how many laps would be left in the race with the whiteboard, and I was trying to sprint down that main straight, and that puddle from earlier, if you remember, I ran on it and I slipped incredibly hard and I ate the floor, and yeah, I wasn't able to communicate with Aiden the whole of the stint. So yeah, quite embarrassing, but let's see where we could finish up. At this rate, we had just prioritized making it to the end and just damage limitation, just trying not to make our situation any worse, but also more specifically to just enjoy the moment of being able to compete in real life competition as a team outside of the sim. But that does not mean that Isham's stint was uneventful. Literally quite the opposite. It was probably the most drama-filled stint within the whole team, as he was trying to get us back into the rhythm and our lap times were coming back, but then we get turned around. And this sets us back so much. We take so long to get back onto track, and as you can see, Isham was just frustrated, and understandably so. It was a very frustrating moment. Now we just have to claw back those laps to not finish last. Next on the list to end it off was Moath. And just as expected, Moath put us right back into the fight for P8 with some really stunning times that was good enough for top 4 and sometimes top 3 depending on what stage in the race. Moath really was putting the hammer down, and it just was another instance of what could have been. Had managed to finally capture P8, and a really stunning drive from the boys. It was just such a shame just being unlucky, I guess, with how the karts worked, and it's a race of what could have been, but it was still a cool experience nonetheless.